Imagine a reality where your ability to access healthcare, defend yourself in a criminal trial, or express your political beliefs is decided by a proprietary algorithm that you are legally forbidden to see. We are rapidly trading human judgment for automated systems, bringing us to a critical crossroads between technological optimization and fundamental liberties.
Yeah, it's a massive issue.
If you enjoy content like this, please take a moment to like, subscribe, follow, and turn on notifications so you'll always know when new content is released.
Thanks for tuning in.
As a quick update, we continue to monitor the Martin Stevens v. OpenAI matter. It is important to note that this is still not a lawsuit. We remain in a voluntary quiet period at the request of Martin Stevens to allow time for any potential developments behind the scenes. At the time of this recording, we do not know whether any progress has been made. No settlement discussions or negotiations have been publicly confirmed. We can also report that the dead man's switch has not been activated, meaning Martin Stevens remains safe from both a physical and legal standpoint. We will provide updates if circumstances change.
We'll keep everyone posted.
You know, with all that legal maneuvering happening in the background with the Stevens case, it really brings us to the core of what we're talking about today.
Yeah, it really does.
We are looking at this just massive societal shift, right? Algorithms essentially running our lives. And the big question is whether our democratic freedoms can actually survive this kind of algorithmic governance.
It's arguably the most profound shift we've seen in our lifetimes. We're moving away from the traditional liberal nation state into what analysts like Jacob Siegel call an information state.
Right, an information state. And we're drawing on a lot of legal scholarship and congressional testimony today to unpack this. You know, I look at this shift and I don't see an insurmountable tech problem. I see a legal one.
Okay, a legal problem. How so?
Well, if we adapt our current constitutional frameworks, like the First Amendment and freedom of information laws, we can absolutely force these black boxes open. We don't just have to surrender to the machine.
See, I have to disagree with you there. You can't just regulate a system that is, by its very nature, fundamentally designed to exert total control.
Total control?
Yeah, we aren't just dealing with bad code or a procedural glitch here. Algorithmic governance structurally relocates power away from the public. It puts it into this opaque alliance between tech monopolies and the state.
Right, but
You just can't file a FOIA request and expect to dismantle that kind of leviathan.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. Let's break down what's actually happening on the ground, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
The opacity of these algorithms, the fact that we literally can't see how they make decisions, that's a legal choice. It's not an inevitability of the code itself.
Really? You don't think it's a technical barrier?
No, not entirely. Think about it. Just as the Constitution explicitly forbids secret courts, we have the legal precedent to forbid secret code in public governance.
Are you talking about like when they use algorithms in the justice system?
Exactly that. Look at the Loomis case, for example, where a proprietary algorithm was used to calculate a criminal's risk of reoffending.
Oh, right. And that directly impacted their sentence.
Right. Or look at what happened in Houston, where teachers were fired based on this hidden algorithmic evaluation system called EVAS. The algorithm just spat out a low score.
And they couldn't even challenge it?
Exactly. The teachers couldn't even see the math used to fire them because the company claimed it was a trade secret. But citizens pushed back, you know? They demanded procedural due process. If the government uses it, the public has a constitutional right to scrutinize it. It's that simple.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
You're treating this like a minor paperwork issue when it's an entirely new regime of power. Asking for transparency from a machine learning model isn't like asking to see a standard list of rules or a spreadsheet.
Walk me through that then. Why doesn't demanding the code work?
Because even if a judge orders a tech company to hand over the algorithm, what you get are millions of weighted data points in a neural network.
Right, it's highly complex.
It's completely unreadable to humans. You can't just point to line 42 and say, here is the bias. Shoshana Zuboff actually made this exact point in her congressional testimony.
So you're saying transparency is useless?
Downstream transparency is, yeah. Focusing on asking to see the inputs and outputs after the damage is done is a trap. It's exactly what tech giants want us to do because it distracts us from the real issue.
Which is what, in your view?
The foundational illegitimacy of how they get the data in the first place.
Ah,
The entire system is built on the secret extraction of our personal lives. They are essentially stripping us of our right to decide what is true and what is private.
right.
And then they feed it into a machine to predict and control behavior. You're arguing over the details of a contract while ignoring that the whole building is made of stolen property.
Okay, I hear you, but that is exactly where legacy legal frameworks can intervene.
How?
Let's say this massive data extraction and speech moderation is happening on social media. If we treat those platforms as public spaces, we actually have a roadmap.
A roadmap from where?
Think about the Supreme Court case, Marsh v. Alabama.
The Company Town case from the 1940s?
Right, exactly. Back then, a private corporation literally owned an entire town. The streets, the sidewalks, everything.
Yeah, I remember.
The Supreme Court ruled that even though it was private property, it functioned as a public town, so the company still had to uphold First Amendment free speech rights.
Right.
If social media platforms are our modern public square, we can legally treat them as public fora. We can force them to respect First Amendment rights and break up this censorship complex without having to completely dismantle the technology.
See, that's a compelling legal theory, but it assumes the state and these tech platforms are distinct entities in tension with one another.
And you don't think they are?
They aren't. They have already fused. We're seeing a whole of society mobilization here.
Mobilization in what way?
Well, look at the documentation surrounding government agencies like CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
What exactly are they doing that breaks the company town analogy?
They are essentially deputizing tech executives to police speech for them. Instead of the government passing a law to ban certain speech, which would, clearly violate the First Amendment.
Right, that's blatantly unconstitutional.
Exactly. So instead, they use these back channels to tell social media companies, hey, we need you to algorithmically throttle these specific narratives. And they often do this under the guise of fighting malinformation, which is a terrifying concept.
Wait, malinformation?
Yeah. Malinformation is defined as factually true information that the authorities perceive as harmful to their narrative.
So they just use the algorithm to hide the government's hand.
Exactly. It's essentially martial law enforced through algorithmic pre-censorship.
Martial law is a strong term.
But it fits. When the state and the corporate platforms are operating in lockstep to eradicate specific ideas before they even reach your feed, the concept of a free public forum is completely obsolete. The town square isn't just owned by a company, it's a surveillance trap run by the state.
That's an interesting point. Though I would frame it differently. I think there is a fatalism in assuming this information state is an invincible monolith. Human beings are still behind these machines, right?
Invincible? Maybe not, but extremely powerful.
Sure, but human judges are the ones who can look at these back-channel emails between the government and tech companies and declare them unconstitutional.
If they ever get to see them.
True, but human juries can recognize when an algorithm denies Medicaid benefits unfairly, which, has actually happened. Human judgment still holds the ultimate veto power over automated systems.
I come at it from a different way. You're pointing to a few localized victories, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
But that resistance is being rapidly outpaced by what scholars describe as the idolatry of AI.
Explain what you mean by idolatry in this context.
We are treating these machines as if they possess some divine, infallible wisdom.
Oh, I see.
As we build artificial intelligences whose judgments go beyond their own programmers' comprehension, society is actively choosing to abandon the human art of politics.
The art of politics? Like debate and legislation?
Yes, politics, negotiation, compromise. Those are the messy, human foundations of democracy. Instead, we are willingly submitting to top-down social engineering because it promises to eradicate human error.
So we're basically voluntarily trading freedom for efficiency.
Precisely. We are eagerly trading away our civic rights under the false promise of optimization.
But what about the programmers?
The humans, you say, are behind the machines aren't acting like democratic leaders. They are acting like pharaohs.
Pharaohs?
Yeah. They use the inscrutability of the algorithm to hide their own power, so they can rule without ever being held accountable by the public.
Okay, to pull this together from my perspective, yes, the digital Leviathan poses immense challenges. But
our existing legal frameworks are not powerless.
By anchoring ourselves in transparency, utilizing the First Amendment, and treating essential digital spaces as public squares, we really do have the tools to team algorithms. We can mandate visibility and protect individual liberty without throwing out the digital age entirely.
And from my perspective, algorithmic governance represents a fundamentally new regime of power. It takes sovereignty away from constitutional documents, which the public can actually read, debate, and amend.
Right.
And it relocates it into the hands of an elite corporate state alliance acting through opaque code. Because of this structural reality, algorithmic governance inherently hollows out democratic freedom, regardless of how many transparency requests you file after the fact.
I think where we definitely share common ground is recognizing that this shift toward automated decision-making is the most profound disruption to civil rights in a century.
Institutions are robust enough to govern artificial intelligence, or if they are already obsolete.
Indeed, it suggests there is far more to explore in this material. It leaves us all with a lingering question. When you are standing at that crossroads, how much of your fundamental freedom are you willing to surrender to an algorithm you are legally forbidden to see just for the promise of optimization? If you found this episode valuable, please like, subscribe, share, follow, and turn on notifications. It helps us continue bringing you content like this and ensures you never miss future releases.